It's funny, people always want to talk about my American Idol and Emmy thing and all that stuff, but you're right, actually my favorite things to talk about are the high schools I visited. My favorite moments in my tours were the moments when I shared them with all those kids. I'd look at the audience, and they'd be on their feet, they're clapping along, but nothing beats looking back and seeing all these choir kids and band kids, the biggest smiles on their faces, clapping and singing along to the song. That was, to me, I always remember that experience more than I remember even American Idol. I mean, singing in front of 30 million people was fun, but it wasn't as impactful as singing with 100 choir kids behind me who were all just so excited to be on that stage.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Elia, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to another episode of the Kindness Factor podcast. I'm Randy McNeely, known as the Kindness Giver. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Dr. Elia Gourgouris, the happiness doctor. And we are thrilled to be able to welcome into the studio today Mr. Shaun Barrowes, a consummate musician that has so many talents that I can't even begin to name them all. But we're going to introduce Shaun a little bit. But first, I wanted to say thank you, Shaun, for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Shaun Barrowes was a season 7 top 30 contestant on American Idol. He's an Emmy-nominated artist for his hit song, Army of Kings. He boasts a stellar career that includes performances alongside stars like Janelle Monae, Imagine Dragons, and Lindsey Stirling. Very notably and interestingly, he collaborated with Jackie Chan on the theme song for Jackie's USA Green Heroes Tour. His original track, Being Awesome, was released in 2019, and that track has garnered over 450 million views on YouTube. In 2023, Shaun Barrowes extended his talents to become an amazing Amazon best-selling author and award-winning novelist with his debut work, The Paradise Planets, The Fallen from Paradise. This multimedia endeavor encompasses a 9-song album and a graphic audio book featuring over 25 voice actors. It marks one of the most ambitious projects of his career. The book launched in June of 2023, and it reached #1 in all categories on Amazon and won the Pencraft Award. His second book is scheduled to be released in 2024, going to extend the captivating Paradise Planet series. And there's so much more we could say about Shaun, but we're going to jump right into it because he's got a lot of interesting things for us to share with us today. Thanks so much again, Shaun, for joining us. And
happy to be here. Thank you.
Just an amazing man. And
he's only getting started. He's still young. He's got a ways to go. So
he is a very young guy, and he's still got a long ways to go. Shaun, we normally, when we have our guests on, we invite them to share with us an experience that they've had with someone that they would consider a kindness hero, someone whose kind act inspired you so much that it transformed your life, that it inspired you to want to pay it forward to other people. Do you have an experience you'd like to share with us?
So there's a number of them, of course. It's not just, it's hard to limit it to just one. But I'd like to talk first about my piano teacher in high school. I had high school was obviously rough, hard time for most of us. I mean, vulnerable time, and I was still trying to figure out who I was. And, I had just gotten through this process of, trying out for the soccer team 3 years in a row. The first 2 years I didn't make the team. And I'd worked really hard at making that team. I was practicing on my own every single day, practicing every day, just getting on that, trying to make that team, mostly because I was new to Utah. I just moved here from Alaska, and I was the new kid. I was in Spanish Fork, Utah. It was considered a one-horse town at that time. They just barely got excited about getting like a McDonald's or something. It was, brand new town, and it just was really small, and I just did not fit in at all. I had a hard time making friends, and so the reason why I wanted to be on the soccer team was so I could make friends. That was the whole point of it. Is I wasn't really I wanted to be a soccer star necessarily. I just wanted to have some friends, and so I figured making the soccer team would be a good way to do that. So when I tried out in 9th grade and I didn't make it, I was determined to make it the next year. So I practiced every single day on my own just to make the team. And then that sophomore year rolls around and I still didn't make it again.
Mhm.
And I know that, a lot of people that were watching me during this time was really determined to be on that soccer team. The truth was I wanted to make the team, but really I just wanted to, make some friends. That was the point. And so I was frustrated in this process. And my piano teacher, David Brooks, he saw this frustration because I was ready to just kind of give up on everything. I was like, okay, I tried, I lost, tried so hard to get this thing and it didn't work. And so I was like, I was ready to give up on piano lessons as well. And piano was something that I was actually good at. But it was, when you play you play an instrument, you play it by yourself. So it wasn't like I was really making friends through this. So I was like, I got to do something else with my life. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm just ready to give up everything. And Mr. Brooks, David Brooks, he saw that I was frustrated. He could have just told me to try some new songs or practice harder or it'll get easier, whatever it was. What I was tired of it, and the moment was playing the notes on the page. I wasn't really that excited about just playing a new piece where I just had to play everything exactly how it was written, all the dynamics, all the notes right there spelled out for me. I wanted to, I wanted to explore other things, and he saw this, and he could have just, he could have just gone through the motions like most piano teachers might have. Just said, oh, just keep on practicing, and he could have just let me quit and move on to his next student. He could have just not cared, but instead, he actually did care. He actually took the time to think it through and figure out what I needed. And he said, you know what, you're right. Let's go ahead and stop playing the notes on the page. Let's go ahead and stop playing these songs. How about you start playing your own music and write your own stuff? And he said, Shaun, I believe that you're a composer. I don't think you're a concert pianist or whatever else. I think what you need to do is write your own music. And something about that changed everything for me. It helped me find my passion. Kind of like what Sir Ken Robinson talks about in his book, The Element. Like when you find your passion, it changes everything, right? Well, he helped me find my passion, which is creating in general. Composing was a piece of it, but creativity, being able to create where there were no wrong answers, that was the key for me. And it not only opened up the door to finding my passion, it helped me make friends. That was the thing, is like I started to become creative in everything that I was doing, and I realized, what, I can be creative in how I make friends too. And I ended up creating this whole album of songs, of original songs, and I needed backup singers for it. So I went to the choir, and I found the most popular choir kids, and I asked them if they would sing backup on my album. So it was kind of a big risk to take because they didn't know who I was. But they were excited about it because it was a new thing. They had never done anything like it before. So they were excited. They all came over to my house, my little basement studio, which was like a little closet. And they just each took turns in my closet and sang. And they became my closest friends. That was like the turning point. And it was all because not only Mr. Brooks, but also because these kids, the choir kids were really, they were showing me kindness too to the new kid. They were like, oh yeah, we'll help you out. I didn't pay them anything. It was just they were being kind to be there on my album and excited. And from that point on, they were my biggest supporters of the album. They helped me sell 300 copies of that CD in my high school, and not only make friends, but then I suddenly was a popular kid in high school. And so there's quite a few people involved in that whole process, but that turnaround of me getting some confidence in myself and learning that I was, finding my passion. Mr. Brooks, David Brooks, he helped me find my passion. And then in so doing, he helped me make friends. And then those kids in high school were the best of friends from that point on. And they were definitely good role models for me too. So I would say it just kind of had the spiraling upward effect, where suddenly all these new people were coming into my life and helping me find myself and find my direction and all these things. So that was, a big turning point for me.
So there are a couple of things that come to mind, Shaun. What an incredible story you just shared. First of all, the first point that comes to mind has to do with soccer. I'm a big soccer fan. I'm a big, sports fan and so on. But the fact that you tried for 3 years, you practiced on your own, and you didn't make it. Something that I've learned in my old age is rejection is God's protection. You had a plan, an ulterior motive, really. It wasn't even about the playing soccer. It was about finding friends. But I believe that rejection was God's protection for you so that you could end up finding the friends actually that would support your creative endeavors.
Yeah.
Much better than the friends who were jocks. Not that there's anything wrong with sports. I love sports, like I said. But for you specifically,
Mhm.
the plan was to connect with people and to gain your popularity through the passion and the purpose of you becoming a musician, which is much, much more beautiful, right?
Yeah.
So
But
I see like two blessings. There's a blessing in the rejection to begin with, and then there's a second blessing that has to do with a very wise and insightful piano teacher who, like you said, could have insisted. I have a son like you who plays piano without even reading notes. He can go off on a riff on his own. He's a composer, like just like you. But
Yeah.
if you when we tried teaching him piano lessons, do this, he was so frustrated and wanted to quit. And when we have the same story, so I relate to you on a very personal note. When our piano teacher backed off and said, "Do your own thing," he flourished just like you did.
Yeah.
Because you're right, you're more than a piano player. You're really a composer, and so the fact that he saw the talent in you, maybe even before you saw it in yourself. What an act of kindness and what a wonderful thing to have in your life. So on both accounts, great story.
Thank you. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and David Brooks could have gone so many different directions with that, but it always comes down to having that one adult when you're a kid, that one teacher or mentor who just sees you, for who you are, and says, I'm not going to fit you in a box. I think you just you need to be over here, and I want to just help support that. And that makes such a big difference for all the kids out there. I think you see it time and again. And it was so nice that I had that opportunity so that I could find out who I was early on and not have to continually pound, beat my head against the wall with all these things that did not work, It's, yeah, it was very, very nice of him. And from that point on, he supported it. He was always there to listen to my compositions and give me encouragement. And so that was what our lessons became. It was no longer playing Brahms and Liszt. It was playing my own pieces. And him saying, "Oh yeah, that's great. Try this, maybe try that." And now I want you to, I want to challenge you to write a song about this. And yeah, he changed the whole format of what he was teaching, and that was more work for him,
But something that is so beautiful. I'm sitting here listening to your story, and I'm listening to what you said about it spiraling up. And you think about it, because of that one act that David Brooks, where he extended his vision to you, really. He says, "Shaun, this is what I see in you. I see a composer in you. In other words, I see the composer in you. I want you to bring that composer out." And because he gave you that opportunity, it opened up the door. You opened up the door for those choir students to have an opportunity to be on an album. Hey, how cool is that? This guy's writing an album. We get to be the backup singers and sing with him. But then it developed into friendships, which opened up the doors. They helped you sell 300 copies of your album, and you made friends. It became popular in school, and I can almost guarantee. Not almost, I can guarantee that none of those people have forgotten about that experience. And
Yeah.
we know as well as you do that you're never going to forget Mr. Brooks and what he did for you. What this is a beautiful example of the power of kindness, yet again, how it can open our hearts and paint on them. Kindness is a primer. I love to say that word. Kindness is like a primer. It makes love stick. It's like on the primer you use on your house. You go and paint the boards, you get them prepared so that the paint's going to stick to them. Well, kindness is just like that. You put the kindness in and do kind acts for people. It's like the primer that opens up the door, opens up your heart, and it makes it so that the love that comes because of that sticks to you. And I can guarantee those students, that have not forgotten you, and it's opened up door. I'm willing to bet, and I want to hear. And I know Elia's got something to say because I can tell he's ready to say something.
I lean forward when I do that.
I would love to hear more about how, because of that experience, you paid it forward. Elia, go ahead, and then let's.
No, that was what I was going to say. How did that impact you, and how have you paid forward? You and I are the same mindset, Randy.
We're
So
reading
yeah,
minds. We're dangerous.
yeah, because I'm excited because usually this is what happens. We're on the receiving end of something profound that changes the course of our lives, really. And then as a result of that, we are inspired to do the same for others. So yeah, how have you paid it forward?
Hello, my friends. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today. We sincerely appreciate you. My friends, I firmly believe that every one of us has an inner kindness hero that is just waiting to be released every day. I'd like to give you a pathway for releasing yours. How? By helping us to flood the earth with as much kindness as possible, to create a global kindemic that spreads love, hope, and happiness. Like and subscribe to each of our social media channels listed in the description, and take out a subscription through Buzzsprout for as little as $10 per month. You can help us to continue to spread the kindemic by bringing you great content here and taking our transformative kindness message to a much broader global audience through the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Release your inner kindness hero today. Thank you for your support.
You know, I think there was something ingrained from that moment that I realized that the value of mentoring and teaching and actually looking for people for who they are and helping them out. And there have been moments of time where I've been able to reach back. In fact, I did this whole tour for 4 years. It was a high school tour called Live for Music. And this whole tour was based around me going to high schools to find these kids, to help them out. And I did this. I went to hundreds of schools. I raised money for their programs, and that was kind of part of the whole thing. But really, the reason why I wanted to do this was so that I could go perform with all the choir kids and band kids. So I did this tour where, you know, I performed in concert halls, and I had a choir and a concert band from a high school, local high school, come and join me on the stage. And then I would also find some of their top soloists to come and sing my song for me. I'd say, you know what, I won't sing all my own songs. In fact, I'll have 2 or 3 of your top singers come and sing those for me or with me as a duet. But what that did was it gave me a chance to workshop with these kids before the show. And that was actually my favorite moment. I'd go to the school, to the choir room, and I'd get to, meet all the kids that were excited. They'd been practicing my songs for months, and I show up, and they're excited to see me. And it was such a fun moment to connect with them, and then find out what they wanted to do. I was just, I'd have at least a time with maybe 4 or 5 of them to see, like, what is it that you're hoping to do. There were quite a few of them that ended up going to college because of that show and that performance, because they realized, oh, you know what, I can do this. I actually can do music and the arts. Let me just go ahead and sign up for a music program at this local college. And their parents told me, like, my son went to college because you featured him as a soloist in your show. And that was such an impactful moment for me. That not only that, there was these kids that I rounded up for internships to be my interns and just kind of follow me along and see what I was doing on the business side of it. And I ended up finding a few kids who launched their careers from that moment. They became filmmakers or whatever else because I brought them with me, and I just kind of saw where their talents were, and I said, you know what, this is what you're good at. Try this. Let me connect you with this person. Let me help you out with that. And I lined them up with their first job. And so there have been a number of those experiences where they've come back and said, you know what, you're the reason why I'm doing this job right now. You're the reason why I have this career. And I'm like, really? Wow, that's amazing. That's really everything for me. It's the only thing I really wanted from being a musician was to inspire people, right?
You know what you remind me of? I'm going to give you a new nickname. You are a musical angel investor in people.
Nice.
And
I like that.
No, and I want you to actually think about that and actually lean into that statement, because you've started creating your legacy by opening your doors, just like your piano teacher did for you. You open up doors for people's careers. You help them find their passion, their purpose, and your mentorship and your guidance. Even if you did that to one human being,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How great is your joy? The fact that you did it to multiple people. And I actually thought, these kids are practicing your songs. You show up at this high school and you spend some alone time with them, and then you invite them up on stage. This is like a dream come true, to get to sing with you your songs.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, to recognize, like, hey, I can do this. and then go on to college and go on and create a careers. These are all legacy opportunities for them and for you.
Yes.
What a
Yeah.
wonderful thing to say. I mean, you've made this world a better place, even if you did nothing else to anybody else for the rest of your life. And I know you're just only halfway through your career. You got a long ways to go, young man. But but what you've accomplished already, besides your personal accolades and all the things that Randy, when he read your bio at the beginning, which is impressive enough, what's more impressive to me is what you just shared with our audience, what you've done for young people. That to me goes at the top of all your accomplishments, honestly. That's why I'm calling you a musical angel investor. That's it.
And I agree, actually, that it's funny. People always want to talk about my American Idol and Emmy thing and all that stuff. But you're right. Actually, my favorite things to talk about are the high schools I visited. My favorite moments in my tours were the moments when I shared them with all those kids. I'd look at it at the audience, and they'd be on their feet. They're clapping along. But nothing beats looking back and seeing all these choir kids and band kids, the biggest smiles on their faces, clapping and singing along to the song. That was, to me, I always remember that experience more than I remember even American Idol. I mean, singing in front of 30 million people was fun, but it wasn't as impactful as singing with 100 choir kids behind me who were all just so excited to be on that stage.
That's because your heart, not ego. That speaks of your
Yeah.
heart, not your ego. That's the reason why you say that, and God bless you for that.
Oh,
Well, that's
thanks.
the beautiful thing is you're working in what we call the heart space.
Yeah.
You're working to bring out the best in those kids. The beautiful thing is not only when you're working to bring out the best in them, it brings out the best in you. You know, it goes both
Exactly.
ways. It's a winning combination. I can't help, as we're sitting here thinking, I'm sitting here, you know, our friend Jason Hewlett recommended that we get in touch with you and interview you. And I can't help but think of some of the similarities between the two of you, and understand better why you're friends.
Yeah.
Jason is the consummate mentor when it comes to speaking, when it comes to inviting people to learn how to speak and teaching them how to speak, etc. And now we've met the consummate mentor when it comes to teaching people how to find their musical passion. And so goodness, we could go on all day talking. Unfortunately, we've come to that point where we need to start wrapping up. What we do in this point is, Shaun, we're gonna put you on the spot, as if we haven't already done that, but we're gonna do it again. Because we normally ask our guests to think of 3 simple nuggets, golden nuggets, or pearls of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience to, you know, to inspire them as a some parting thoughts.
3 things, okay? So first of all, I would say everybody needs to take the time every day to create what I call creating on the blank page, where they can stretch their imagination. I feel like when we reach our creative potential, we are able to help more people creatively. Creativity is so applicable to service, to kindness, to helping others, to mentoring others, rather than putting people in boxes and looking at standardized methods and assembly lines. Creativity is needed for relationships. It's needed for mentoring and helping others. And so when we take the time ourselves to what I call create on the blank page and stretch our imagination, it keeps the creativity flowing. So that when we are faced with relationship challenges and things, we know how to think outside the box and you know, have that paradigm shift that we need. So I feel like it facilitates the paradigm shift by staying in a creative zone. So that's what I always like to talk about is getting, you know, whether you're musical or not, doesn't matter. I think there's always a value to writing in your journal or painting on a canvas or writing a manuscript or whatever it is, just taking that time to create and stretch your imagination and just think, so that you're able to turn those creative juices on. And then when you're faced with certain problems, you can more easily solve them. So that's one thing I always like to share. Another one is knowing that almost is enough. This is important because we are hard on ourselves. We can be perfectionists. Maybe we can be, when it comes to creativity or anything, if we're perfectionists, sometimes we're so hard on ourselves that we stop doing things. We just say, well, I'm not, good enough, so there's no point in doing it. And that's why I like to say that almost is enough. You get there and you do the best that you can do and then realize that you're almost is definitely good enough for that scenario. You know, it's being able to almost succeed in these things, or almost, you know, do exactly what you wanted to help somebody, but you still tried. You still did all these things. You still made this effort, and your efforts are still count. I think that's the main thing, is that we discount our efforts and thinking, well, I didn't get to the 100% mark, and so therefore the whole thing is void or a waste of time. And I think it's so important to realize that our efforts matter, and the journey matters. That getting to that 90% or even 20% or whatever it is, the effort of trying to help, to lift, to serve, is in and of itself enough. And I think that's a important thing, not to be hard on ourselves and prevent ourselves from actually doing things because of it. You know.
Yep.
I guess a third nugget would be to always have gratitude. I think gratitude is such an important trait to have, to see your life from a perspective of gratitude, and realizing that, you know, if you have a house, your house is the dream of the homeless. If you have a job, your job is the dream of the unemployed. If you have health, your health is the dream of the sick. You know, if you have
I love that. Wow, I've never heard that before, Shaun. That's a very interesting perspective about life. You're totally right. Because
Yeah.
most of us are focused on what we don't have, keeping up with the Joneses or whatever, like, oh, rather than saying, man, I'm so grateful for what I have. And actually, I'm a happiness expert. The happiest people in the world are the ones that are happy with what they have, not what they wish they had.
Yeah,
That's so
exactly.
true.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, I'm in an unfinished basement. I'd love to finish my basement, but I'm happy I have a basement. You know. So it's just, yeah, having that gratitude of like, well, yes, I'd love to have a brand new Tesla, but I'm fine with my Honda Odyssey for now. It's just being grateful for yeah, I think having that gratitude of also just the things in the past. The hardest thing that I had to come to terms with is being grateful for my failures, being grateful for my rejections, like you were saying. I think those are the hardest things to be grateful for, because you're like, well, I didn't win American Idol, so how can I be grateful for American Idol? You know, I only made top 30. That's not what's to be grateful about. You know, it's the idea that, like, I had to be first. I had to win the Emmy, not just get nominated. I had to, you know, have the hit song that I wanted, whatever it is. Being grateful for the failures, for the almosts, for the shortcomings, I feel like that is the key to being content.
I love it. All three of them are powerful nuggets, man. Thank you so much for sharing your heart. I'm so impressed with what you did, what you're doing with the high school kid. To me, that's more than American Idol. And honestly, I think the impact that you've had on young people's lives is the gift that keeps on giving, because you are David Brooks to them.
That's
They
right.
will be adult in somebody. They will be on some show that they're going to talk about. They're going to answer that question: who is your kindness hero? And
Yeah.
that name is going to be Shaun.
Well,
That's beautiful.
interesting thing, when David Brooks saw those things in you, I like to think he stepped into the shoes of a kindness hero himself, and then by doing that, he launched you into an area where you went and got your own pair of kindness hero shoes, and put them on, and you stepped into those shoes for all these other people. Shaun, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us today. Thank you for joining us. If our audience wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Through my website. That's the easiest way. There's all my socials are on there. All my emails and contact info's on there. It's just thedavinciapproach.com.
Okay, great. And we'll make sure that we have all that information in the description. I want to say to our audience, take the time. We invite you to take just a few minutes and think about, what did I learn today? How is it applicable to me? And what am I going to do to pay it forward from what I've done? What am I going to do about it? Take that time. This has been a great interview. We've talked about some fantastic things. I just invite you to and encourage you to take the time to do that, because I can promise you that it will be a blessing to your life. We can promise you that. Now, as we go forward and you go through your next week, remember that with kindness,
everybody wins.
Everybody wins. Thanks so much.
Thank you.